$2, less than the price of a cup of gas station coffee. That's all it takes to tip a mystery potion into your tank and set off a chain reaction that could end with a four-figure repair bill and your mechanic shaking his head in silence. Wander down any auto parts aisle, and you'll find shelves stacked floor to ceiling with neon bottles that promise the moon. Instant horsepower, jet engine fuel economy, injector hygiene worthy of a laboratory clean room. The labels shout racetrack approved and scientifically proven, while the microscopic fine print hints at warranty nightmares the salesman forgot to mention. Behind the counter, seasoned technicians roll their eyes because they've seen cracked fuel rails, melted pump seals, and carbon baked so hard it needs blasting, all birthed by these so-called miracles in a bottle. Today we're prying open 13 of the most talked about blends. The hush-hush concoctions mechanics discuss only after the shop doors close. Some vow to unleash supercar thrills. Others swear they'll vaporize gunk your injectors never even met. But every single one carries a hidden twist most garages pray you never uncover. Octane boosters lead the charge in the performance additive parade. Marketed as instant horsepower in a can, they lure weekend racers with glossy dyno graphs and buzzwords like anti-knock index. Yet recent independent lab tests pulled back the curtain, revealing a darker flip side. Certain metallic boosters, especially those spiked with ferrocene or manganese, actually increase engine knock once cylinder pressures soar past factory limits. The irony is brutal. Drivers feel emboldened by the silent cylinders, push the revs, and hear no ping. But microscopic shock waves begin hammering piston crowns and rod bearings on every combustion stroke. Next in line are the synthetic ester race blends. Mixed right, an ester cocktail can hike your octane well beyond 100 and deliver buttery smooth acceleration. Mixed wrong, it turns into an industrial solvent strong enough to leach plasticizers from modern multi-layer fuel tanks, leaving them brittle like sun-baked garden hoses. Layer on oxygenated aromatics, touted for razor-sharp throttle response, and you've created a boutique brew no major automaker has ever certified, let alone tested for long-term compatibility with rubber seals or direct injection pumps. Dealership insiders whisper that some service centers slip a few ounces of this rocket fuel into customer cars during routine maintenance, banking on the driver's seat-of-the-pants excitement to boost survey scores. The customer drives away thrilled. Service manager pockets a glowing review, and the looming reliability bill becomes a problem for another day. And octane, that's merely the opening gambit in a much deeper game of additive roulette dealers play behind closed bays. If you've ever paused at a roadside pump and noticed those stark black and white billboards touting deep clean gasoline, you've already brushed up against injector detergents like Chevron's Techron, polythyramine formulas designed to strip away carbon the way a pressure washer blasts patio grime. The marketing is slick, but a 2025 consumer protection lawsuit filed by 4 state attorneys general now alleges the supporting lab data cherry-picks test cycles and inflates mileage gains that average drivers will never see. Even so, the promise of dodging a 4-figure injector replacement keeps fuel system cleaners flying off the shelves. The global market tops $2 billion a year because hope, as it turns out, is cheaper than a full rail of piezo injectors. And therein lies the quiet tension. Every spotless injector is a repair ticket that never prints, and dealership techs who pocket flat rate hours for swaps rarely champion products that undercut their best-paid procedures. Into that uneasy standoff strides the newest marvel, nanoparticle catalysts. We're talking microscopic cerium oxide or platinum fragments suspended in a carrier fluid, touted to crack fuel molecules, lower combustion temperatures, and magically boost mileage by 10%. The hype hit fever pitch last summer when several major rideshare fleets rolled out a pilot program across Phoenix and Atlanta. 3 months later, clogged fuel filters and a rash of sulfur-smelling exhausts sent the same fleets scrambling back to stock fuel, issuing quiet memos that never reached the press. Online forums still buzz with DIY evangelists who swear by chart-topping Amazon reviews, but the deafening silence from once eager fleet managers speaks louder than any influencer video. And remember, cleanliness isn't the only obsession at the pump. An entire subset of drivers is convinced the fuel itself needs fixing, sparking a cottage industry of anti-ethanol potions and water binders we'll unravel next. Ever pulled up to a pump, noticed a small green E15 sticker, and felt a twinge of uncertainty ripple through your gut? Ethanol's hygroscopic nature means it soaks up atmospheric moisture like a sponge. That single fact fuels an entire TikTok cottage industry of anti-ethanol, elixirs marketed as the only safe way to protect your engine. Scroll long enough, and you'll see breathless creators pouring bright blue fluids into demo fuel tanks, warning that one unprotected fill-up will rust your injectors into paperweights. Never mind that not a single mainstream automaker on Earth endorses these additives. In fact, most owners' manuals bluntly state that any warranty claim tied to unapproved fuel treatments can be denied outright, leaving drivers with a repair bill and no recourse. Yet the viral clips keep coming. Secret warranty killers, dealer silent solutions, and other buzz phrases engineered to spark late-night panic buys. Meanwhile, over on classic car forums, graybeard enthusiasts swear by adding a glug of two-stroke oil at every fill-up, insisting the extra lubricity protects delicate high-pressure pumps from ethanol's alleged dryness. Modern wideband oxygen sensors beg to differ. They gag on the ash residue, flip the check engine light, and nuke any emissions test. Throw in warnings about phase separation, fuel line corrosion, and supposed octane loss, and ethanol becomes a monster under the bed. Though empirical fleet studies from the Department of Energy show most of those fears are wildly overblown for cars built after 2001. Still, facts rarely stand a chance against an algorithm primed for sensationalism, and so the E15 anxiety industry keeps humming. Yet even the ethanol debate feels tame compared with the legal minefield unfolding in the diesel world, where a single bottle of anti-gel can land both drivers and sellers in the EPA's crosshairs. Lead substitutes and valve seat protectors keep the nostalgic bark of carbureted 60s V8s alive, promising to cushion pounding exhaust valves the way tetraethyl lead once did. Trouble is, the International Agency for Research on Cancer quietly bumped several of the most common replacement compounds. Think methylcyclopentadienyl manganese tricarbonyl, MMT, and certain phosphorus-heavy, upper-cylinder lubricants into its Group 1 definitely carcinogenic category earlier this year. Translation: the same splash that safeguards vintage valve seats can lodge toxic metals in your lungs and groundwater. You would think that headline alone would empty the shelves. Yet owners of high-compression classics still snake through swap meet aisles at dawn, hunting for sun-bleached bottles with retro fonts and ingredients long banned from mainstream retailers. Some small-town garages, seeing the steady demand, keep a dusty crate of contraband concentrates under the counter and pour them in without a word, convinced they're doing the customer a favor or simply chasing a quick upsell. The irony: most engines rebuilt after the 1990s carry hardened valve seats and sodium-filled valves that laugh at unleaded fuel, rendering these cocktails about as necessary as points ignition. Worse, the trace manganese or zinc in many blends doesn't just wash away. It can foul catalytic converters, turn spark plug porcelain peanut butter brown, and trigger phantom knock sensor codes modern scan tools chalk up to random misfires. Yet owners cling to the ritual, pop the hood, crack the bottle, breathe in that sweet solvent smell, convinced one missed dose will doom their beloved big block. And if you think those glass bottles are the only silent hazards lurking on the garage shelf, wait until you meet the seemingly harmless aerosol that can torch an engine bay in under 10 seconds. Fuel stabilizers sit on store shelves draped in promises, keeps gas fresh for 12 months, or ethanol protection guaranteed, and they're marketed as must-haves for everything from snowblowers to classic motorcycles that hibernate half the year. Yet when an independent material science lab in Michigan pulled 20 of the top-selling brands and ran them through ASTM D525 oxidation stability and NACE corrosion coupon tests, the results were grim. 11 showed no measurable rust protection after just 96 hours in a salt spray chamber, and 5 actually accelerated pitting on soft metals like brass and zinc. Even worse, technicians found that doubling the recommended dose, a common DIY practice on forum threads, didn't extend shelf life at all. Instead, the excess antioxidants polymerized into a sticky amber varnish that glued injector pintles shut and lacquered carburetor jets into uselessness. Small engine mechanics groan at the irony. The very bottle meant to prevent springtime no-starts ends up generating the gummy sludge that lines the service bay's cash register. Meanwhile, boat owners face a double jeopardy because stabilized ethanol blends can still phase separate in humid marina climates, leaving a water-rich layer that corrodes aluminum fuel tanks from the inside out. And as we'll see, once varnish, moisture, and heat mingle in a confined engine bay, some so-called protective additives can spark far more than debate. Their vapor trails can ignite in spectacular, wallet-draining fashion. Upper cylinder lubricants sound reassuringly tame, little more than a thin, oily mist meant to quiet sticky throttle linkages and soothe dry valve guides, until you visualize that aerosol plume drifting across a manifold glowing cherry red after a highway pull. In the latest product liability blockbuster, attorneys for a trio of burned motorists allege that several popular top-end sprays atomize into a vapor dense enough to ignite on contact with catalytic converter housings, creating a blowtorch effect that shoots blue-orange jets straight up the firewall. Ford exhibits feature scorched hoods, melted ABS wiring looms, and firewall insulation charred down to bare metal. Grim Polaroid snapped seconds after what was supposed to be routine maintenance. Internal safety emails, leaked during discovery, show engineers warning executives that the propellant's low flash point does not provide an adequate safety margin in typical underhood thermal soak. Since those revelations, extended warranties have begun excluding damage linked to unauthorized lubricants, and dealership service directors quietly scrubbed the one standard courtesy lube from their multi-point inspection upsells. Independent shops feel the chill too. One shop owner confessed he ditched his bulk cans the same week as garage. Insurer hiked premiums for any business still stocking the product. Even DIY fanatics on YouTube, never shy about spraying first and asking questions later, have started prefacing videos with disclaimers thicker than the lubricant itself, warning viewers to let engines cool for at least 2 full hours. Yet lawsuits and insurance hikes aren't the end of the additive saga. Chemical startups touting biosourced friction modifiers and heat-activated nanofilms are already maneuvering to fill the void, promising all the lubrication with none of the pyrotechnics, and potentially rewriting the rules of fuel-borne engine care in the decade ahead. Biotech startups are now coaxing microscopic algae into bioreactors the size of shipping containers, fermenting them into next-generation fuel detergents that cling to carbon deposits like magnets clinging to iron filings. The resulting molecules wrap around soot particles at the molecular level, breaking them into nano-sized fragments that combust cleanly instead of baking onto injector tips. In early pilot programs spanning long-haul trucking fleets from Texas to Saskatchewan, engines running on the algae blend cruised past 150,000 and in a few cases 200,000 miles without the faintest hint of spray pattern distortion. If those numbers scale, the age-old routine of yanking injectors every 60K for an ultrasonic bath could disappear entirely, taking with it a service lane cash cow worth billions worldwide. Wall Street analysts already pegged the green additive segment for double-digit annual growth through at least 2030, driven by looming Euro 8 emissions rules and corporate carbon targets that give fleet managers every incentive to adopt. In hushed corners of parts counters, mechanics grumble that the real threat isn't clogged injectors. It's a detergent that strips away one of their most reliable revenue streams. Meanwhile, investors are pouring capital into algae strains engineered to fix their own nitrogen, slashing production costs and making the per gallon price nearly competitive with conventional petrodetergents. Even the EPA appears intrigued, fast-tracking research grants to study whether these biosurfactants also slash particulate emissions. If the science holds and regulations lean favorable, a humble pond organism could end up rewriting the entire maintenance playbook for internal combustion engines before the decade is out. From octane potions that quietly sandblast piston crowns to algae-borne detergents threatening to erase an entire segment of the repair industry, fuel additives remain a high-stakes gamble hiding in plain sight. Brightly colored bottles masquerading as shortcuts to power, economy, or longevity. We've just unmasked 13 of the most talked about blends, concoctions that whisper promises of racetrack glory, miracle cleanliness, or ethanol salvation, yet can just as easily torch catalytic converters, leach plasticizers from modern tanks, or leave injectors glued shut with varnish. So the next time you reach for that $2 elixir at the checkout counter, pause and picture the chain reaction it might set off under your hood, in your wallet, and down the road at your mechanic's shop. Now that you're armed with the backstory mechanics rarely volunteer, look twice before you pour, and let this channel know in the comments. What's the wildest or most disastrous fuel additive you've ever experimented with? And did it deliver magic or mayhem? Your stories could save the next viewer from an expensive lesson. And don't wander far. Our upcoming deep dive into engine oils that outlive the car itself will expose another layer of chemical snake oil versus genuine science. Until then, remember, sometimes the cheapest fix is the bottle you leave on the shelf, and the smartest maintenance move is simply sticking to fuel your engine was designed to drink.